Hi folks, welcome back. We're going to talk now about value. When I say value, I'm not referring to how much the painting's worth. I'm talking about the range of light from the white paper all the way to the darkest black that we could paint on there. And we think of it as sort of on a scale. Thinking about the value of our shapes in our painting is one of the most important things we can do to really help our paintings work. So when I see a beautiful scene in nature, like a waterfall, that I want to paint, what I think about first is the design that I want to put on my piece of two-dimensional paper. And what helps me make that design work is thinking about value. It's actually more important than color or anything else. It's where are the darkest darks, where are the lightest lights, and how will I lay those out in an interesting pattern on the paper. Usually, where the darkest dark meets the lightest light is going to be my center of interest in that painting. That's where I'm trying to draw my viewer's eye. And they're going to be drawn to that greatest point of contrast. With watercolors, the lightest thing that you can get is the white paper. And once you start putting pigment on it, you're never as light as that again. And so it's always a constant process of moving from lightness to darkness in a way. Let's think about lightness to darkness on sort of a scale. Typically, artists talk about a value scale as going from 1 to 10. 1 being the lightest or white, in our case, the whiteness of the paper, and the other one is to the darkest that you can get. How dark can you possibly get that pigment? Well, in our case, that's a super loaded brush with not a whole lot of water in it of any different color. And so with watercolor, that means that I have to control myself and control my water and control my pigment in a way that would lead to having a variety or an entire spectrum of value or how light something is. Let's start over here with just leaving this first one, our number 1, let's call that 1, and it's going to just be white. I'm just going to break this down to 5. This number 2, I'm going to try to show you how light that is by putting some thin lines very far apart with my marker. It's the best way we can show it with using it like in a pencil sketch or a marker or pen sketch. When I move to 3 then, I'm going to make these a little bit closer together. And 4, I'm going to make them a lot closer together, more of them. I've got more vertical lines in my sketch. And finally, 5, it's basically solid. So there's my value scale, from whitest white to as dark of pigment as I can make it. So I'm going to start a sketch now and think about creating a little painting. But I'm using my value scale to think about it. Let's think of our rule of thirds and let's put a little mountain range in here. And I'm going to make my sky about a 2. I'm going to show you that by sketching and making my sketch with some hash marks or some lines in the sky about that far apart. I want my mountains to be a little bit darker than the sky so they kind of jump out, a little bit like we did when we created the flat wash mountains in front of that graded wash sky. Then I want to have some, let's say, some deciduous trees in the sweet spot of my 1/3 rule here, and I'll put a tree right here, a whole clump of trees. Okay, and then I need to have something darker to kind of show those off. So this I'm leaving pretty close to the white of the paper, but I need something darker that's darker even than the mountains. So it really sets this clump of trees off, which is going to be my center of interest, or my sort of my focal place where I want people's eyes to go. So how about putting a darker band of trees behind it? That I'm going to have that band of trees go even above the mountain line, the line of horizon line of mountains there. Really starting to punch those out. And somehow I will think about this foreground in somewhere in the middle in terms of value, and possibly add something that maybe is like a road or weeds or grasses or a fence or something that takes your eye back to my center of interest. Let's take a look at how that might look with a painting. So I've done this in a monochrome using ultramarine blue so that you can really focus more on what I'm talking about in terms of value than on the colors telling the story. My sky is fairly light. You might notice I used my thirsty brush to pull a little cloud behind those mountains. I've got a fairly much of a flat wash that's a little bit darker. It has a little bit more pigment in it than the sky did. I left the trees in the foreground pretty white, mostly white paper, and I have some darker trees that help really set those off, and a little bit of reflection of those dark values down in the foreground. But whether this is a road or a river, I would probably be able to show you more if I could use color or a little more texture or something to tell the story about what this zigzagging shape is in the foreground. But whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It could be a river or it could be a road, and they both do the same job. They bring your eye in here and they help create an interest. This is pretty much the sweet spot over in here. I would say it's the bottom left corner of our tic-tac-toe rule of thirds. Let's take a minute to practice creating different values, different shades of darkness or lightness that help make our paintings really jump. Let's try it with watercolor paint, which is a whole different story than just using pencil in a sketch or using a marker the way I showed you. So let's start by cutting our work surface in half. Give yourself a little watercolor paper piece that's mine is about 6 inches by 9 inches. It's a small piece, but it's going to really help my eyes and my brain learn about how I can adjust the value of the watercolor paint. Let's make 3 boxes on this side because I want to try to go from light. Let's make light down here. This is as light as I can get. This will be number 1, light. And this will be in the middle. This will be like number 3, medium. And this will be number 5, dark. Those numbers are just arbitrary, but they kind of give you a sense of the relative difference between our lightest and our darkest. Well, if I'm going to do this with watercolor paint, I'm going to have to really start thinking about how much pigment is in my brush. I'm going to start by getting it rinsed out. I bounce my bristles down at the bottom of my water bucket, and I go back to my puddle, and I dip into that pigment with the corner of my wet brush and start creating a creamy melted butter puddle right here. And now that I have this, I think it's easiest if I start with the darkest dark. So I'm going to really load this puppy up. I want to get as much pigment into that brush as I can. I keep going back and touching that pigment chunk where I squirted it out like toothpaste. I go back and forth so I don't have any lumps of it inside my bristles. And now I'm going to fill this top box with that pigment. And that is pretty darn dark. I'm going to overlap my stroke so I sort of filled up that whole section. I'm going to do this one time, but this is one of the exercises I'm going to encourage you to try more than one time, because this is where you're really learning how to control what comes out of your brush. I'm going to rinse that brush out, but I can see that there's still a little bit of pigment in it. And so I'm going to go ahead and fill in this box with almost clean water, but it's just got a tiny bit of that ultramarine left in that water. When that dries, it's going to be a very pale blue. You'll be able to tell that there's some blue in there. It's not just the whiteness of the paper, but it's just got a little bit of pigment to it. And now let's see if we can hit the middle. I'm going to go back to my puddle, and I think it'll help me to have a paper towel this time, because this paper towel is what will help me pull a little bit of pigment out of my brush and a little bit of water out if I need to. I'm going to just touch this a little bit and see where I'm at. Well, that looks almost as dark as it does in my number 5 box. So I'm going to just touch my rinse water just one time and wipe it on the side, hit my paper towel with it a little bit, and try that again. Well, that's a little bit darker than my number 1 here, but it's still, I don't think that's halfway in between yet. It needs a little bit more pigment in it. So I'm going to get a little more pigment and hit that again. Now we're starting to get to what's pretty much halfway in between, I'd say. Play around with this. This is a time where practicing over and over is actually going to really help you. But you notice I didn't try to do it perfect on the first stroke. I kind of test myself. I can add a little more pigment if I need to. I could add a little more water if I needed to. Let's put it together in a little kind of a drawing. I'm going to pretend like I have a little barn here, a little structure that's sitting out in the sun. The way that might be helpful to start for you is to just have a sort of a trapezoid shape, kind of like a rectangle that's been pushed over, kind of push this top corner and it slants it over. This line right here should be parallel to this line, and the top of this little roof should be parallel to that eave. or the bottom. Then I'm going to go in a little ways and create my wall right here. And over on this side, I'm going to put the other angled roof on the opposite side of my little structure. And I like to put a little bit of a point there because that really tells my viewer that that's the corner and that's where this building comes to an end and the background starts. I want that corner right there to kind of show. What am I going to put down here? Well, I don't want to make it just a straight line. That tends to look sort of like in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy's house just lands thump into the land of Oz and smacks the witch. It's just flat on the landscape. Instead, I want that to be in the landscape, and so I'm going to put some grass across here. Okay, here's my little structure. I'm going to think about value because I want to pretend like there's a sun up here in the sky, and one way that I can really help tell you that the sun is shining towards the front of this house instead of over on this side is if I put a little eave right here, a little overhang on the roof. I think that will help me tell this story with value. Okay, let's tackle it. I'm going to have my lightest side, my number one side, be this front of the structure. And I'll just have a little bit of that blue pigment. I'm actually just going to use my rinse water and I'm going to fill this in. Okay, there's my lightest value. It's very pale light blue. Now, I'm using my 1-inch brush because I don't want to get too fussy. When you're doing this, you might want to use a pointed brush, a round brush, because you can get up into that little corner a little bit easier. But I just turn my flat so it's the same direction as that roof and pull it down. So I can do it with a broader, faster stroke. I tend to find that my overall flat wash that I've created is a little more even than if I fussy a round brush around in that whole area about 1,000,000 times. Okay, let's do our darkest dark. It's going to be over on this wall because this is coming from the opposite side of the sun. So I'm going to get as much pigment on my brush now as I can, and I'm going to paint this wall. That means I'm going to use a flat wash, but down at the bottom, I'm just going to break it up a little bit. Again, I'm just using my 1-inch flat because I don't want to get too fussy about it. The other piece that's going to be that value is this eave up here underneath, and I'm turning my brush to the side so that I can paint that eave with my, whoa. I almost said some bad words. As Julia Child would say, oh, I'm actually glad that this happened because now I can show you that lifting out my paint is sometimes necessary if I make a little bloober. I forgot that I had a pretty wet wash on that front face, and so I took my paper towel where I folded it into a kind of a firm line, and I used that lifting trick to get that paint to come off of that front. Doesn't bother me now. I want to get a little darker up in that very tippy top corner, and I'm just going to let that dry a little bit. Okay, we still have one more plane to deal with, one more shape to deal with, and this is the one that we want to have be in the middle. I'm going to try to hit for a 3 in between a 1 and a 5 for this side of the roof. It's not getting direct sun on it, but it's not in complete shadow either. I'm going to just pull my flat, 1-inch flat down the same direction as the roofing might be. So in other words, I'm pulling it so that my brush is going parallel to those slanted diagonal parallel lines that I used when I created my little drawing. And now I have different values and I can go back if I want to, maybe use a smaller brush this time. Sometimes a round is your friend on cleaning this up a little bit. Grab some pigment with my round and I can go back and maybe make it even darker under here. Get this eave to be a little more consistent. And put a little bit of grass in underneath. Again, my round brush is nice for this because as I pull it up, it creates the same little pointed shape of what that grass might look like in real life. Okay, a little simple value practice, but keep doing this. You could do it certainly a lot more than once in order to kind of feel confident that you can adjust the amount of pigment you have and the amount of water you have in your brush to create the value that you want. So there you have it. That's value, from light to dark. I'll be referring to value quite often in these lessons because that's what really helps make a painting work. Next up, we'll talk about color. Hi, I'm Bob. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you'll go by my website at watercolorwithbob.com. That's where you'll find an interactive outline of the whole course. You can also share your work with me and your fellow students. One thing I really love about watercolor is how accessible it is. That's why I realized it was important to me to put this course out for free. That said, it would mean the world to me if you would support this work. You can like it, you could share it with your friends, you could subscribe to the channel, you could also visit the gift shop or even make a donation. Thanks so much. See you on the next lesson, and happy painting. What am I supposed to do with myself while it's drying?